Namaste and welcome to Sahil Raje ji. Thank you so much for joining us today evening with Indica Changemaker Sahil. You've come all the way from Mumbai with a stop at Sholapur. So thank you so
Mhm.
much for connecting with us today. Yeah.
Namaste.
So
The pleasure is all.
yeah, thank you. Can you tell us something about how you got into the Indic space? And you mentioned that you've been following Indica. So can you tell us something more about your Indic journey, Sahil?
Sure. So I was really lucky to be born in a family which always was very spiritual in nature, very dharmic. So those kind of sanskars were always there for me. However, uh, probably around seventh, eighth standard in my during my school, I read. Since I used to read a lot, I was a voracious reader. I read about Marx and everything, but by 11th standard or so, I realized there are many loopholes, and this just doesn't fit right. And due to my traditional Maratha upbringing, because I had grown up reading stories of Shivaji Maharaj and all that, even the saints of Maharashtra, it had a very deep impact on me. So that's how I was always very much leaning towards dharmic side. And my in a way I realized how difficult it is to talk about such topics, because they were considered either taboo or either that I am too political and all that. These subjects shouldn't be spoken about, especially in a college environment, because these are too uncool, or these are too they were just taboo basically. And uh, this was way back in, I think, 2013, during my junior college days. So that's how I realized that this needs to be addressed, because it was like a scary situation, because I remember we had a small discussion on Ram Mandir and how everyone in my classroom and everyone turned hostile, and in a way I lost a few friends. But I realized that I didn't back down. Thankfully, that kind of buddhi was there. So from 2013 onwards, I've been a part of this space in one way or another. I used to volunteer for small events. I used to contribute financially, even if it was 50 rupees, 51 rupees, since I was a kid in college. So I used to donate in my limited capacity. So but from 2013, I was in a way passively involved. But from 2016 onwards, I guess, I we since I started knowing about what's going on, I started understanding how history has been manipulated, or what is happening politically. I started becoming an active part. By 2016, on somewhere around 2016, we started a small organization with a couple of friends called Bharatam Reawakening. I was the founder of it. We operated in Mumbai, and it was a youth centric and discussion forum wherein we used to sometimes invite guests, and we used to have discussions about various historical topics or political topics. So that's how I in a way actively became a part of it. However, since my studies and my career was going on, I couldn't do it full time, but this was always my passion to do something for the culture country, because it was always ingrained in me since my childhood. And post that, I started another in a way NGO called Subhiksha, which operated in conversion affected areas of the Hisar, wherein we it was a area which was heavily a lot of missionary activity was prevalent over there. And that's where we realized the importance of being connected with the grassroots. And so that's how Subeksha was started, and we served over 50,000 meals over there. And we did our best to help the children with their education, with helping them gain some kind of employment. We used to help them with skill training and stuff, so that they could earn the bread for themselves and not be reliant on others. So that's how I've been a part of it. And apart from all this, I used to write as well. So this was something as a passion. I used to write on geopolitics, on historical topics. I've always been a commentator in a way, in my own capacity, on all these things which are happening around. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you also went to Russia. It's mentioned in your profile, and took part in a conference. Could you talk about that?
Yes. I also represented India in the BRICS summit, which happened in 2019. So it was like a warm up event to the main event where Modi ji went, Xi Jinping was there, Vladimir Putin was there, and over there I spoke about India's role in 21st century. Over there as well, I realized the kind of how things work, and it was a great eye opener for me. And it was a result of so I used to write articles on geopolitics and all that. So that's how it happened that one of my articles was really liked by one of the decision makers, and that's how they introduced me.
Right. And could you
Yes.
now talk about your entrepreneurial ventures, and especially in gaming, and the
Hmm.
new game that you have conceptualized and now are in production stage? Could you talk to us about Mumukshu?
Yes, sure. So, before Mumukshu, I had a couple of entrepreneurial ventures as well. I did my postgrad from a business school. For Mumukshu, so as I said, we have been holding discussion debates and this kind of activities in order to raise awareness. I realized for a fact that people, after they go out of that room, post the discussion, immediately they disconnect or forget about what we have discussed, and it's over. So I realized in order to create an actual lasting impact, so this was something which I've been pondering for a long time, since almost 2016-17, that how do we create a more lasting impact. I realized what our saints used to do. It either was through, so all our great epics and works are in the form of kavya. So that's how I realized that art, either it is through arts that these values and these important things can get passed on and it will reach masses and grassroots, or it has to be in the form of gaming, basically entertainment. That's how it will sustain as well, and it will reach masses as well. So since I wasn't that very good at art, although I understand and appreciate it, so I realized gaming is the way ahead. And it's always something which was in the back of my mind, but I couldn't do because of my career commitments and all that. But then I realized that if not now, then when. So I started, the initial idea came to me somewhere around 2024, uh, the start of 2024, in the initial few months. And then I thought that I should go digital with the game. But then I realized the cost and everything that is involved in this space is too high. And then I knew about snakes and ladders. Snakes and ladders is almost 1500 years old. It was in a different form before this, but the essential core idea of it was the snakes used to be the Shadaripu, or the six vices, so the seven vices, the Kama, Krodha, Mada, Moha, Lobha, Matsarya. And the ladders were the good karmas that you do. So essentially, whenever a child used to play that, subconsciously he used to know that if I engage in too much Kama, in too much Krodha, too much Matsarya, life will bring me down. If I do good karmas, life will take me up. So this is how our kids were subconsciously trained through games, and it created a very lasting impact. So I knew the kind of potential games have, but I didn't know how big the market is. So when I came back, I researched a bit. I realized how massive the market is and how big of a potential this market has. And I also realized that unfortunately this market is heavily in a way dominated by Western people. The European markets, the American markets, all their products dominate this industry. And plus, there is a huge cultural aspect also which they bring along with their games. So, in a way, these games are also a very strong soft power. So they create a very long and lasting impact on people's mind. So and whatever little that Indian games have in this market, it is also very heavily influenced by the Western culture or Western way of doing things. So there is absolutely nothing which is 100% Bharatiya apart from Mumukshu. Now that Mumukshu is entering. So this is how my journey began, and this is how I started with this process. And it was a huge leap of faith because it is always easy to have a very stable job. I mean, we have that, our parents especially, that why take the risk? This is, everything is going well. But I realized for a fact that this has always been my dream to do something for Dharma, and that if not now, when? That question was always very much with me. So yeah, that's how the journey started.
Could you tell about the game itself, Sahil? It's based on the Purusharthas, and what is the gameplay? In gaming, I found that the most exciting thing, apart from the theme is usually very simple in most board games. If you see, it's a very simple theme of either cop and robber, or travel to places, but the gameplay is something that actually is what catches us. How does the game move forward? What are the consequences, like in snakes and ladders? So how does one conceptualize a new gameplay? The theme is something that is close to your heart, but in we cannot deny the fact that international board games have better gameplay than many of the simplistic business game, Monopoly or Snakes and Ladders or Ludo. Those are like almost not as popular as the others. Slightly more tricky gameplay. So how does
Yeah.
one conceptualize a gameplay that is as complex as the overall theme?
Okay, so I'll first tell you how the gameplay works in Mumukshu. So Mumukshu is basically based on four Purusharthas, as you mentioned. The idea is to attain Moksha while fulfilling your arthic and karmic desires in a dharmic fashion. Okay, so while doing so, you pass through four ashramas, and brahmacharya ashram, grahastha ashram. Grahastha ashram is where the majority of the game happens. The main game happens. Vanaprastha ashram and sannyasa ashram. So you pass through all this, and then you do all this while exploring Bharatvarsha. And this Bharatvarsha is the ancient geography of India, not the limited current geography which we have. Um, and while doing so, you fulfill, you do karmas, you fulfill objectives, and based upon that karma, whether you get moksha or not is decided, and whether who has lived the best possible life wins. So it is as close to as a real life as possible. It is extremely, you can, every subtle concept which is there in the game, you can relate it with life as well. So when it comes to European games, as you said, they are strategic in nature. They are very competitive and all. So that was also a benchmark which I set for myself when I started making the game. That the game shouldn't be time pass. The game shouldn't be something which you can wake up at 3 a.m. and play, like say Ludo, because since we the such subtle and such um, very important concepts like dharma, purushartha, and all are intrinsic part of the game. The game can't be so simplistic or so which is just for time pass. It has to be very serious, it has to be very educative, and it has to create a lasting impact on people who play. Another thing which I always had in mind while making the game is that Indian arts are never just for entertainment. When it comes to, even if you consider say Kathak or any form of Carnatic music, the thing about Indian arts is it always elevates you spiritually in some way or another. It is not just a means of entertainment or fun like Western arts is. So I had this in mind while making the game, that it should also help them become better, a better person, even in this material world, and also spiritually it should elevate them, and that it should be very competitive and strategic, because it should create it should make the children or whoever plays think and navigate, because since the game is about life, it has to be complex. Life isn't easy. So all that factors were taken into consideration while I made this.
So, how is the game aesthetics? I mean, how do you use Indian words, Sanskritam words? How is the design itself? Sometimes they said some board designer says the quality is where we fall short sometimes, the final production quality. So, are these things that were important to you, and how did you focus on that?
Yes, very true, ma'am. This was something which I was very sure from the beginning that I won't compromise upon. That is why right from the right from naming the game to the subtle aspects and the game components, everything I wanted to be as close to as close to its roots, original meanings. That's why most of the things which are used in the game, they are Sanskrit non-translatables. I mean, um, uh, um, clearly four purusharthas are mentioned, that you have to pass through four ashramas, and that is mentioned. Even the so as I said, you explore Bharatvarsha in the game. While exploring Bharatvarsha, you come across different locations. Even while naming those locations, their original names have been retained. So, for example, Ahmedabad is not called Ahmedabad; it is called Karnavati in the game. Hyderabad is called Bhagyanagar. So, all these things have been taken into consideration while taking the game, while making the game, and this has been something which I have always believed that we shouldn't compromise upon. If such things are not taken into consideration, then it is really difficult to call the game Indic in nature. So it is like compromising on its very dharma, the very core aspect of the game. So all this was always into consideration, and the idea or the core idea of the game was to make it as realistic and as close to the karma aspect of our dharma as possible. So it is, you can easily draw parallels between the two. It is very, very, very realistic, and that's the
Mm.
most beautiful part, that while playing you understand how life works. Yeah.
Mm. So, what is the age group? Sahil? See, the thing is, like most of our texts and we have simplified, abridged versions for children. Then we have adult. But most games should be relatable to all ages, where youngsters are able to play with parents, grandparents. So, is this a game that can be played by any age group, or is there some
Yeah.
restriction? And
So actually, chess, for example, chess, we it is a very strategic game. You need to think a lot. There is a lot of calculation involved. So we used to believe that children above say 13, 14 can play chess. But we know for a fact now that a kid named Anish Sarkar from India only at the age of 3 is a rated player.
Hmm.
So it's the same with Mumukshu. The only prerequisite for Mumukshu is that they should be able to read English and understand what's written. Apart from that, anyone, if there is their parents who can help them a little, definitely children from any age group can play. But we recommend children 13 or plus, because they have developed the kind of understanding, because there are subtle aspects in the game which are a bit difficult for them to understand at that age. For example, the concept of pitras is also there, paying homage to your ancestors, or the concept of kula devta is there in the game. um, all these subtle aspects, it is a bit difficult for a child below the age of 13, 14 to understand at least the basics of it, even if not in its entirety. But so yeah, I've been getting amazing feedback, and so I while making the game, I thought this would be a game which would cater to say 14 to 25 age group. However, when I started testing it, apart from this 14 to 25 age group, which they really loved playing, they found it very engaging, very much fun and entertaining. The people above 25, they found this they found this really very something which makes them think, which the concepts of the game, it was something which they could contemplate on for hours and days, because there are objectives, mandatory objectives to do. So in a normal Hindu way of life, marriage, children, or the basic duties of grahastha are in a way mandatory. It is similar in the game. So all these things now, they have been really something which the 25 plus age group used to take, and they used to contemplate upon, while comparing it with their own lives. So this has been a very nice revelation to me. So this 25-35 age group really found it very helpful for them in this aspect. The people above that age group, interestingly, they were the ones who could connect with the game the most. They really loved the subtle aspects of the game. They really understood the game in its entirety, the subtle concepts, the how life actually is, and the kind of challenges and all that, how they have to navigate through it. They understood the game in its entirety. That is why they could connect with the game more than everyone else. They took a bit of extra time to understand the game and the game mechanics, but they could connect the most with the game. And parents, for example, who played with their children, they gave me such amazing beautiful things. They told me one of the very interesting thing, which a parent told me, she was literally in a way in tears, that this has been like a bonding exercise for me and my children. It is because of your game I could understand what goes on to their mind. How do they think? Because the game has very important elements. So I mentioned about marriage, children, about societal responsibilities. The game is about balancing such things. The entirety of the game focuses on how well you can balance your personal ambitions, familial needs, spiritual endeavors, and societal responsibilities. All these are an intrinsic part of a Hindu grahasthi's life. So parents could understand the psyche, or the way their children think, and because of that they could have a very deep and engaging conversation with each other, understand each other's viewpoint. So this was like the most perfect icebreaker even between the parents and the children, because these topics are never discussed, unfortunately. So this is how it has been a revelation for me, that it exceeded my expectations when I because I initially planned it for children. So yeah, that's how it is.
Wonderful. So you're here in Bangalore for a gaming conference or exhibition. So what is the market like, Sahil, and where do you see Mumukshu, in the midst of other competitors? What is the board game market itself in India? Is there a big market for board games? And two, for Indic board games, have you done any market surveys? What do you see the scope?
um Board games in general are huge in west. Okay. They are it is a massive industry, massive. Gaming in general is at its peak right now. There are we recently saw the chairman of Reliance also say that gaming is expected to be bigger than oil and food combined. That's how big of a potential the gaming industry has. Board games will become a very intrinsic part of this revolution, because unlike the video games, board game doesn't alienate one gender, or may- uh, the video games only cater to a certain age group. So for example, say 14 to 20, 22, beyond that it is very less. So board games, on the other hand, does not have such complications. It is literally for everyone, and most importantly, which is the problem which we see in other forms of game, is that it tends to alienate you from the society, whereas board games do the opposite. This has been a huge problem in countries like Japan, Korea. There is a specific condition for this called hikikomori, because they get alienated so much that they prefer to stay in their house only. whereas board games do have an opposite impact. As I said, there is a lot of interaction happening, there is a lot of exchange of ideas that happen. So it brings people together. So board game, I envision it to be very big. And the sad part is that in India and in Asia in general, we have such a massive culture, history. There should have been so much that we can do over here, and unfortunately we don't have anything substantial, which needs to change. And this is one of the reasons why I started this. And with this, there is a huge potential. It's just that people need to recognize that there are new avenues, because the problem with board games in general is that people don't know the know um, how board games work and how board gaming is growing. Because potential wise, from what I've seen, I'm traveling extensively. It is really growing very, very, very rapidly in metros and tier 2 cities. In tier 1 and tier 2 cities, it is huge. And I'm also seeing that many of the high end schools and gurukulams, they are trying to imbibe board games in order to teach children. This is also how board games will cultivate in the future, that it will be an alternative way of teaching. And that's how it always was. Games and such forms used to be a very perfect madhyam in order for people to and children to understand and learn things. Because even while testing the game, I've been observing kids are really attentive while playing the game. And because they are attentive and because they are concentrating, the aspects of the game, the knowledge which is a part of the game, it gets easily registered into their minds. Whereas when they sit to study, it is the other way around, because their attention is somewhere else, they are thinking about something else. So this is the difference which I'm seeing. And board games are really growing. The kind of conventions that are happening so frequently, the amount of new people that are coming in, because people people don't have the kind of sources of entertainment which are productive and which are in a way good. Okay, the kind of entertainment sources that we have are really, I mean, it is sad that there is no proper source of entertainment for kids nowadays. It is either very violent or obscene, or I mean, there are no alternatives. It is really very essential that dharmic sources of entertainment, at least, which are even if they are not dharmic, they should at least not be counterproductive, or it
Yeah.
should at least not spoil the psyche of the child. So it is very important that we boost and we push for something like this. It is very, very important, especially because since the future lies with the kids and the children. It is very important that they are in the right path. Because I've been in this education, and I've been dealing with kids and all. That it is very, very horrible, the kind of things which they are exposed to. And because there are no alternatives for them also. Such alternatives are really essential that we promote them. And board gaming can be that perfect alternative, because it really makes them think. It really helps them become better versions of themselves. So yeah, I see huge potential in this in the coming time.
Just as a final question, even as our society is changing, Sahil, the concept of purusharthas itself, whether it is relevant, because how many, especially the fourth stage, is voluntary and not, nobody is actually opting for the sannyas and all that. So when we do a board game like this, what are we portraying a past which is not necessarily happening in the present, or can we send a message that sannyas didn't literally mean going into forest or giving up, but you can always adapt a attitude of austerity and asceticism while living in society itself. So how do we take a concept like the purusharthas and still make the children understand that it's not literally what we are necessarily trying to adapt, but the value system that we hold dear.
Yeah, as you rightly said, sannyasa ashram uh, going away from the family or from the society is one part. There have also been very great saints who have been a part of family, and they have done achieved great things. Santa Tukaram from Maharashtra is a very good example. He lived his normal life. So many saints from the past just 200-300 years. There are countless such examples. So this is it is not mandatory that you have to live your house and the society in order to do that. And for me, moksha or the four purusharthas can never go out of fashion in a way, because as our dharma is, it is sanatan as well, it is eternal. It is just that um, people aren't matured enough, or people haven't realized the greatness of these four purusharthas and the ideas behind it. It is so um, the problem is that this anglicized education has made us forgotten our roots, and because we have forgotten our roots, we are unable to grasp the enormity and the magnificence of purusharthas and such ideas. So it is like if you give gold to a donkey, the donkey won't realize its importance of what the value of gold is. And unfortunately, because of this anglicized education and the kind of cultural impact which we have had, and this kind of colonization period which we have gone through, we are unable to recognize the gold which is in front of us, and unfortunately we have become the donkeys. So it is very important that we there are efforts that have to be made, that we are made eligible in order to identify that gold which our shastras and which our scriptures hold. And it can only be done, unfortunately, because as I said earlier, traditional lectures or traditional way of discussions, debates, or you give them the best of research papers, they won't bother, or they won't take that effort to even read. That is why we have to get this message across in a way which they understand and they prefer and they like. That is through such games or maybe such form of arts, because these two are the only ways which are sustainable and which can actually penetrate into the grassroots. So that is what I believe that we should be really focusing on as a society.
Thank you so much, Sahil. I think people would have got a glimpse of the game. Hopefully,
Yeah.
you'll be able to share some visuals with us at some point of time of how it looks, and so we can share with our audiences and maybe even play. So, all the very best for your venture, and I hope it, really has currency, and all of us are looking forward to playing the game.
Dhanyavad,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Surely I'll share things with you immediately after this. I really hope that Mumukshu reaches its potential, because it genuinely has a massive potential, and it is solving a problem which really needs to be addressed. Really, very significant problem, and all of us have to in a way contribute to this in some form or another. So I hope Devima is kind enough for us to make this successful.
I'm sure, she will do something and it'll be a big, because there are, I'm associating with some organizations which are looking at creating district level education programs, especially in Karnataka, for
Okay.
children. And there's a Bharatiya Sant Mahaparishad being set up, and they hope to create, like how Chinmaya Mission has Sunday, schools for children both abroad and in India. This Sabha hopes to create at district level in Karnataka a syllabus for children, so that there's a day dedicated and a time dedicated for understanding dharmic texts, because we as a community we do not force anybody to do anything. So when we do not force tradition, then what happens? It's so flexible that most people will not opt to do it anyway.
True.
So they want to create a structured system where children are introduced to certain value systems. So maybe the board game can be introduced through those sabhas, and definitely we'll look out for avenues where this can be played by children all over in the country.
Sure, sure, ma'am. That would be really helpful, and I think that's how the way forward should be. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank
Just
you,
end
ma'am.
it.
Thank you for